This is 91.3 FM, WCW in Worcester, Massachusetts, the Dr. Chris Radio Horror program. And tonight on Radio Horror, I have in the studio joining me my co-host Cordila.
Yo.
And also from Boston in Rumor Magazine, returning to us to talk, is DeDe Crimmins.
Oh, hello.
And we are going to be talking about the Mummy franchise franchises, plural, because there's multiple franchises of the Mummy.
Mummies in film.
Mummies everywhere. Mummy, where is the mummy?
Show me the mummy?
Show me the mummy? That would have made a much better movie than that Show Me the Money movie that starred Chris Tucker and Charlie Sheen.
Oh my god, I would still like to see both of them in a mummy film, though.
So I say we brainstorm a mummy movie called Show Me the Mummy.
Show me the mummy?
With Chris Tucker and
Well, no joke. Once upon a time, when the Harold and Kumar movies were like becoming like their own franchise, before those two actors became like super huge in Hollywood, they were gonna do like a horror movie where they encounter like Abbott Costello style monsters and such.
I would have watched the shit out of
That would have been awesome. But the other idea was because the studio making those movies was also owned by Warner Brothers, and they have access to Freddy and Jason.
I'm like,
oh,
if they
yes.
have NPH riding a cougar, like, I will see them battle anything.
I love Cal Penn. I would watch Cal Penn run screaming from various monsters for hours.
Yeah.
But yeah, one's tied up in the Star Trek franchise, the other one's on a popular TV series starring Kiefer Sutherland. So I digress. Back to mummies. Was there a Mummy silent film?
I don't think so. I think the first one was 1932.
Yeah.
Okay, because I couldn't find anything about it other than like very, very loose details like IMDb, but like a date, but no footage, no actors or whatever. So I'm like, who created this IMDb page for this Mummy movie?
Yeah,
like you could find 100 different versions of Dracula before Bela Lugosi's version came out.
Well, I mean, that comes back to, we can get into this a little bit, but it comes back to literary tradition and how essentially the universal monsters, like you go back to Dracula and there's Bram Stoker. There's also the whole thing about turning into vampires and Vlad the Impaler. So there's a huge literary tradition for Dracula. Same with Frankenstein. You go back to Shelley. There's that there. With Mummy and also any sort of resurrected, like Walking Dead, there isn't as much of a literary tradition. It's really something that's come out of both the preoccupation with Egyptology in the early 20s from America and then Europe, and then just America being concerned about,
foreigners coming and taking your women,
exactly.
Which is pretty much the plot of
everything. Yeah.
Now, all the actors to play the Mummy, Bela Lugosi, Christopher Lee, Bela Lugosi, Boris Karloff.
Yeah.
Boris Karloff, Lon Chaney played the Mummy one time, Christopher Lee, Arnold Vosloo, Jet Li, and then, of course, this new woman, whatever her name is. Are any of these actors in any way Muslim, Egyptian, Middle Eastern, African, any type
I don't know this woman's background.
She is clearly pretty white.
I don't know. I mean, what are you
assume her
expecting? Let me
background
look and see what her
without knowing,
name is.
Yeah, but I don't think she's from. I'm just going to assume that this is a continuing with the Hollywood tradition that we don't cast somebody of Egyptian descent.
Yeah, she's not.
She's Italian.
She's Italian. Okay,
Okay,
so she's
we're
white.
we're holding back reservations, being like, I don't want to assume someone's,
But what is
ethnicity.
Arnold Vosloo? Is he?
Oh, I have no idea.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's probably not Middle Eastern or.
Yeah, like Jet Li is not.
Well, yes, he is
Yeah.
Chinese
Yes.
through and through.
Yeah.
But wasn't Boris Karloff? He wasn't just American, right? He was.
Karloff?
Yeah.
He wasn't American.
He wasn't American, but his
Yeah.
descent though was not
Was
fully
not-
American.
I don't know what his ethnicity is.
Yeah, me either.
Yeah. The internet knows.
We'll get right back to that in
Yeah.
a little bit of editing. Actually, Arnold Vosloo is South African.
Oh, okay, there we go.
Yeah, but he definitely has like this kind of accent to his voice.
Yeah, it also begs the question while we're talking about nationality issues with mummies. Like, Egyptians weren't the only people to preserve people and mummify. So
Correct.
I want to see
Right.
like Peruvian mummies coming down from the mountains one day. Wouldn't that be awesome?
Buffy touched on that, but I think
Yeah.
it's the only representation of Peruvian mummies that I've seen.
Oh,
any dry climate is going to produce mummies.
Yeah, yeah.
But you're talking about the episode where Xander falls in love with the mummy in high
Yeah.
school? Yes.
Yeah.
Another great Xander episode. But going back to the Boris Karloff mummy movie, it's dark. It's honestly, it's in my opinion, the darkest looking of all the Universal monster movies.
Well, they wanted to have that tomb-like atmosphere, and they were careful with their lighting and things like that to make it very claustrophobic, like visually.
Yeah, and again, it's one of the few that they didn't really have a literary tentpole to go back to and say, okay, this has to be what Bram Stoker thought, or this has to be what Mary Shelley tried to get across. And I've watched, comparing it to other Universal films, I've watched Dracula Since with a modern audience, and people just laughed throughout it, which actually broke my heart entirely, but it doesn't come across like it was meant to. It hasn't aged as well as I think that diehard fans want to admit. But Frankenstein, you watch it, and it's a horrible tragedy, so that kind of leaves us with The Mummy as being the atmospheric, actual kind of horror film from that group.
And there were people fainting and whatnot during the screenings of that. In fact, my father went to one of them, and women passed out.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
The subsequent Mummy movies that follow of the Universal collection, unlike the rest of the Universal monsters, which all seem to kind of share this joint universe, like the Frankenstein meets the Wolfman, the House of Dracula, House of Frankenstein, and eventually Abbott and Costello. The Mummy movies, those 4 Mummy movies, the Klaus films, I guess because that was the name of the Mummy, are so disconnected, and also the continuity in them is so bad because you have characters who died, or it was like the Nightmare on Elm Street Part 3 and 4 where like the Mummy returns, Freddy returns, and then kills off all the characters from the previous movie to focus on the new characters. And there's like this one character who shows up in like 3, 4, and 5 who loses his arm, gets his arm back, loses it again. Somehow he died, but no, he's still alive. You know what I mean? It's just like there's no even acknowledgement of it happening in the previous one. It's kind of like in Son of Frankenstein, where we got this hunchback character played by Bela Lugosi, who mentions, "Oh, the monster did this to me. I'm all crippled looking because of the monster." And it's like, when did that happen? Because
It was off-screen.
when?
Yeah.
Were you over here the whole time?
You had to be there, Chris. You don't get it.
I think they weren't counting on people having seen every movie in a particular arc.
There weren't
at that time.
there weren't like dissecting film critics like there are today.
Also, back then, it's not like you could rent it and go watch it again. Like
True.
They didn't, unless I don't really think that there was a really strong repertoire screening situation back in that era. So if you saw it or didn't, it didn't matter. Like, you were going to see it because that's what was playing. You needed to drop the kids off somewhere for the day. Like,
Correct.
The consumption of the media was so different.
And it was 20 years before the invention of television, where those would be played on television all the time.
Exactly.
Whereas before they were like, you were hoping, oh, it's back in theaters with like the next Dracula installment, so I'll play the extra nickel to go see the Mummy's Curse, the Mummy's whatever. And then they completely reinvented it with like Christopher Lee, which I actually really enjoy. Have you both seen that one?
Yeah, that's a Hammer movie.
Yeah.
Right there is a Hammer movie with everything that implies.
Yeah. I really, even though I have some criticisms, I'm sure everyone does, about the quality of Hammer films, I can't imagine where we would be today without them having a genuine affection for bringing those monsters back. So I'm always grateful for that.
And Universal like gave them the permission to do it.
Yeah, which I would never happen
because Universal was like, we're not going to make it. We got to do sci-fi monster movies and giant bugs.
We can't even have Big Bird in the Muppet movies anymore. Come on, like, we're not playing well with others right now.
Right.
But you're right. Like, them being able to do that would be great. Yeah.
But we do finally get Spider-Man in the Avenger movies, right?
Finally.
That's the same.
That's the dream.
Just to go back to the Universal films, if you buy them on DVD or Blu-ray, which I highly recommend buying them on Blu-ray because they really did a good job cleaning it up, including the crappier ones later on, The Mummy's Hand, The Ghost of the Mummy, The Mummy's Curse, The Mummy's Toothpick, The Mummy's Dog, which I joke saying The Mummy's Dog because we did get Dracula's dog. Why didn't we get The Mummy's Dog?
Because mummies have cats. They're Egyptian. Come on.
Oh, but mummies are afraid of cats, remember?
Oh, yeah, never mind.
Why doesn't he like cats? Because cats are protectors of the underworld.
Yeah, okay, I take it all back, but it doesn't mean they couldn't have had a crossover film.
That's right.
Right.
There's a great film historian who you see in thousands of interviews, especially connected to the Universal stuff, named David Scull. His commentaries are all on the 100% 100% 100% 100% 100% 100% 100% 100% 100% 100% 100% 100% 100% 100% 100% 100% 100% 100% 100% 100% 100% 100% 100% 100% 100% 100% 100% 100% 100% 100% 100% 100% 100% 100% 100% 100% 100% 100% 100% 100% 100% 100% 100% 100% 100% 100% 100% 100% 100% 100% 100% 100% 100% 100% 100% 100% 100% 100% 100% 100% 100% 100% 100% 100% 100% 100% 100% 100% 100% 100% 100% 100% 100% 100% 100% 100% 100% 100% 100% 100% 100% 100% 100% 100% 100% 100% 100% 100% 100% 100% 100% main films like The Mummy, Dracula, Bride of Frankenstein, Frankenstein, The Wolfman, The Creature from the Black Lagoon, and The Invisible Man. Just the first film, not the subsequent sequels. But his commentaries on any of those movies, especially like The Mummy, if you really want some inside stuff, is fantastic to listen to.
And David Scull's books are all amazing.
Yes.
If you read any of those, and he's incredibly approachable on social media. Like, reach out to him, have a chat. He's
Yes.
a really nice guy.
Yeah, he's been on the show. It was
Oh,
so
he's
much fun.
awesome. I love David Scull so much.
Yep.
We didn't get too far into any other territory because I was on a big kick about vampires at the time, and I just bought his. It was like a book you kept finding at like Barnes and Noble in their like discount section forever. It was like this big vampire book. You pull it out, it has all these little things you can pull out, little papers.
Oh, I had that.
It's like a museum in a book, right? Is that what they're usually referred to as?
I have no idea what they're usually referred to.
No, you know, yeah. Do you know what I'm talking about though?
It sounds like a thing.
Yeah, it's like a hardcover book. You pull it out, and
Oh,
it's
it has,
like it's like this long, you know what I mean? And then it's like this long when you open it up. It has
This is
these
great
little
for
like, you
radio
know,
listeners.
oh, look at this advertisement from like 50 years ago, or
Yeah, and there's little envelopes that you can open and
okay,
take stuff
okay,
out
yeah,
of, and
It's like an adult pop-out book.
Yeah,
Exactly.
I had like 4 or 5 of them from different things. There was a Stephen King one. There was
Yeah,
David Scull's
yeah.
one, and
That sounds cool.
yeah, I have
Yeah.
a Star Wars one, the Vampire one, Spider-Man one, and I forget what the other one I have. I might have the Stephen King one. Barack Obama had one because everyone was, you know, everyone needed to make money off of that guy. I don't see a Donald Trump one out there. I wonder why. Just
I don't want that stuff popping out at me.
now, what's funny though is my son asked me this today because he was playing Plants vs Zombies before we started watching the third Mummy movie, and he said, "Is a mummy a zombie?" And I said, "Yeah." And he's like, "Well, what's the difference?" And I just immediately just blurted out, "One's usually from Egypt, the other's from the graveyard."
Well,
He's
then you
10
start-
years old.
I'm like, if you ever want to debate semantics about undead people, like, I'm your guy. But
That's right. You did
yeah,
the...
yeah, no, I got this. I have a degree in this. But I would say mummies are revenants, which kind of is an umbrella term that could also encompass zombies. If you want to get like old school and do that, zombies are only like the Haitian background. We could do that as well. But I
the Serpent in the Rainbow.
Serpent in the Rainbow, exactly. Yeah, you're a white zombie. Go back to that sort of thing. I wouldn't.
Not the
consider,
band, the movie.
Yeah, I wouldn't consider mummies zombies. I would consider them revenants / undead. But
yeah, because they're there for a task, and you know, usually it's revenge or you know, lost love, or you know, mostly revenge. I would say.
Yeah, and the one thing I've noticed, not trying to skip too far ahead, but this new Mummy movie coming out, I'm giving it a lot of crap because I don't like CGI being overly used. Frequent guest of the show, Penny Dreadful, the horror host, was a big supporter of me coming out and saying that this, from the first trailer of the new Mummy, this looks like crap. This is not my Mummy whatsoever. And she was just like, absolutely. I saw that trailer and I was just flabbergasted. My husband would be so pissed because her and her late husband were super huge, like, monster fans. And I was like, well, let's see what they do with the Wolfman. And but they don't look like they're making this like into a romance thing between Tom Cruise and this female mummy person.
okay.
So whereas like all the Mummy movies always have something to do with some type of like, you know, lost love and reincarnation of love, but like the Mummy movie, the original Universal Studios version, seemed to carry over a lot of like the Dracula players, including like the plot line too, right? Because Dracula's after Mina because it's the reincarnation of his late wife. And then you have a lot of the same actors, including like the guy who plays Van Helsing, right? He's in this. He's hunting down the mummy.
Okay.
Big old monster hunter that guy was.
Yeah, I'm like, Van Helsing's kind of glue that keeps that all together.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And what was funny is that in 2004, when Wolverine did his Van Helsing movie, which I was so rooting for to be good, it sucked so badly.
That's not good.
But I will admit something: that movie is a guilty pleasure for me, just because of how ridiculous it is and how over the top it is. It is the closest we'll ever get to a live action Castlevania movie. For anyone listening, knows that Castlevania is a video game franchise from Nintendo. And if you don't know anything about it, just wait. July 7th on Netflix, Castlevania the Animated Series is at long last coming, which is like... And the animation looks like it's being done by Madhouse Animation Studios, which did like Vampire Hunter D, Bloodlust, and like a whole bunch of other amazing animation, Japanese animation. There was no mummy in that movie.
Okay.
There was the
And the Van
Wolfman.
Helsing?
Yeah, there was the Wolfman, the Frankenstein, and then Dracula, but no Mummy. I'm wondering if they ever got a sequel, we would have gotten the Mummy.
Do you think the Mummy is the least well known of the Universal monsters?
A lot of people debate it's either the Mummy or the Gillman.
Oh, Gillman.
Yeah,
I love
Gillman.
Gillman, though.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but the Gillman recently had a documentary come out, 60 Years of the Gillman.
Oh,
Yep.
yeah.
And I even had the famous female lead of the Gillman on the show, which is like the oldest. And I don't just mean like just because of her age, but just like oldest working like in Hollywood. I mean, she's not working anymore, but just like in terms of like her career longevity, going back to the 50s or whatever. For a guest I've had on the show, it was an absolute true honor, and she was on like Murder She Wrote, which was really cool. So we segued into the whole thing about Murder She Wrote. But anyway, yeah, it's always debated between the Gillman and the Mummy. I mean, the Invisible Man gets more recognition than the Mummy just because of the name, the Invisible Man. It's like, where's the Invisible Man? He's right there. You can't see him. But that the Hammer Mummy movie we were talking about. Do you notice in the trailer, or sorry, the poster, it's got like a hole in his chest?
On the poster?
Yeah,
I-
and they're shining a light through it.
Don't recall ever seeing the
yeah.
poster.
The original Hammer Mummy movie has Hammer, the mummy standing there with like this beam of.
Oh,
But in
Kinda
the
looks like
script,
Wicker Man.
it's never in the script or whatever explaining because they put up this poster while they were making it.
yep.
And-
Cutscene.
Yeah.
What?
Cutscene.
Well, no, Peter Cushing actually was just like, where in the script is the scene from the poster that we saw? And they were like, that was just done up for artistic, to sell the movie.
Oh,
and
yeah.
so he takes he said, well, why don't I take a spear and throw it at Christopher and stab him through it, and he'll pull it out and he'll have like the hole in him. And they were like, okay, let's do that.
So he just invented a really
He
expensive
makes
effect
it,
for them.
yes, because Peter Cushing was like this perfectionist actor who was just like, wait a minute, what? Hold on a second.
I mean, there's a long cinematic tradition of the poster having nothing to do with the film.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah. Improv.
yeah, exactly. How many Mummy movies did Hammer make?
Was
I stumped the both of you.
I
I don't know
know.
either, and I
Yeah.
couldn't find any other really like great listings of Hammer Mummy movies.
I'm sorry, I'm not like a giant mummy fan.
Yeah. I could guess, but it would just be literally a wild stab.
Yeah, no, they don't list a whole lot of other films with the Mummy. But if you do want a great list, Den of Geek has the list of the 13 best Mummy movies. Blood from the Mummy's Tomb, and one we overlooked, Abbott and Costello Meet the Mummy, which is not as great as Abbott and Costello Meet the Frankenstein, but I still liked Abbott and Costello Meet the Mummy because it's Abbott and Costello running around. And the mummy doesn't show up until like the last third of the whole movie, where he rises up and starts chasing Lou and Bud. But for the sake of it being a cool, funny, like horror kind of comedy, I mean, kind of a horror movie, mostly a comedy. It's worth checking out, especially if you like Abbott Costello or.
Yeah, and a lot of our versions of the Universal horror that we have now is based off of what we have from the Abbott Costello films. Even though a lot of people haven't seen them currently, if you go back and like look at where certain mythology comes from for those characters in particular, they're not from the Universal original films. They're from the Abbott and Costello stuff.
And then off the air, which one of you mentioned the Monster Squad?
I mentioned the Monster Squad.
Yes,
Because it's awesome.
it is awesome.
Yeah.
Everyone loves Monster Squad.
Yeah.
Finally getting its recognition after so many years. Over the last 10 years, when the DVD finally came out in 2007, and then the soundtrack came out on vinyl just a year ago from Mondo,
Oh, yeah, Mondo.
who's putting out the Castlevania soundtracks as well as a bunch of other Konami releases. They put out a single little record, little tiny one of the little tiny ones.
A little 7-incher.
7-incher with the Monster Squad rap, which is sung during the trailer. I mean, during the credits, and then they put out the full soundtrack on a full like 2-album set.
There's
Yeah.
been a ton of Monster Squad panels at various cons
There have,
recently
yeah.
for like the last few years.
They did one at was it last year's Rocket Shock we went to?
Yes.
When they had Dracula there, yeah, and they had did they have the Mummy there? I think.
I don't remember.
Yeah. The actor who played the mummy in that was The Monster Squad. Again, this isn't airing for like a week, so any bumps or uhs will be edited out.
What?
Count Dracula, Frankenstein monster, Phoebe, scary German guy.
Wow, scary German guy gets top billing over the Mummy.
Scary German guy.
Was it Dieter Laser? Because, that would have been kind of interesting.
Oh my god, the scary German guy does not get an actual name. He's just always referred to as scary German guy. Michael Reed McKay. He was at Rock and Shock last year.
Okay.
Well, like Andre Gower is trying to raise money and interest in getting a documentary made on Monster Squad and its fandom and why it's so pervasive.
That would be interesting.
That would be awesome.
It would be awesome, yeah. So hopefully he gets the support behind that. It's one of those films, like, going back and revisiting it, I honestly don't think it's very good, but I have a lot of nostalgia for it. And I think just based on, like, the whole universe, now that we are getting Mummy movies, we had Dracula Untold, I think there's a little bit more attention to, okay, like, why did I know these things so much as a kid, and going back and seeing that.
The only problem I have with the Monster Squad was there's a scene where the brides of Frankenstein are walking down the street, and they're only the biker kid, the older kid of the Monster Squad, goes up to him. He shoots one in the heart with an arrow, stabs another one, but the third one never. Is she like in the background killing the police or something?
Who knows?
No, she's gone on to have a fulfilling life of religious excitement somewhere else.
Or she got sucked through the portal. We didn't see it.
No, I suppose.
Like, your version was so hopeful, though.
She has an apartment in New York.
But the guy who
Studio,
played
but it's okay.
the guy who played the Mummy was still working up till like 2015. He was in Insidious Chapter 3.
Oh, man.
Chapter 3.
Chapter 3.
Yeah, which they have Chapter 4 coming out
I
soon.
don't know. I will defend Insidious films. I think they're good.
I think they're okay.
The first one was good.
Yeah.
I like the Further. I think it's interesting they keep bringing back dead characters.
I think they're putting a lot of it on the shoulders of Liz Shane, which is like, fine, she's an okay actress, but those movies are not really, other than the third one,
Yeah.
it's not really her franchise.
It turned into her franchise, though, and I appreciate the fact that they recognize the strength of the film was her.
Mm-hmm.
Like, even though they kill her off in the first one, they're like, wait, we shouldn't have done that. How do we kind of essentially bring her back? Because she was the most fascinating thing.
She
Yeah.
is very cool.
Yeah.
I do like her bumbling assistants as well.
Yeah.
Oh, see, they bugged me.
Oh.
Okay. I like them.
But you have to also give them credit for it being, they put it on her shoulders as being kind of like the main female character. Mm-hmm. She is not 20. She's not a teenager. She is not, with a 36 double D chest and a tight looking shirt running around, trying to impress the audience with her good looks and not her acting abilities at all. She's a 70-year-old woman in a horror franchise as kind of like the lead, our main really character. I mean, we got Patrick. Is it Patrick Wilson? Yeah. But he's not, as much as like a focal point for horror fans as she is, and I think that's some great credit there to James Wan, for recognizing that, because again, you got these horror franchises. It's going to be the 20-something, 30-something, hot chick.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Did either one of you see one of the greatest Mummy movies ever made in 2015? It's called A Mummy Among Us. It was produced and written by Chris Denmead.
Oh, I see.
You didn't call it Show Me the Mummy?
Huh?
You didn't call it Show Me the Mummy?
No, it was supposed to be called I Mummy because I was like in the middle reading I Zombie.
Oh.
It stars Sarah Michelle as the mummy. It's about a mummy who washes up on the shore of... I'm assuming just...
whatever. I did watch that.
Did it get turned into Swiss Army Man?
Yes.
Okay.
And they have to acclimate the mummy to modern day society.
There was less flatulence in his.
Oh, I'm out. Then.
It's 6 minutes long. We'll watch it before you leave. Trust me.
Yeah,
I think
watching.
it will blow you away with its cinematography. It was a 48-hour film festival thing. We put
okay.
together in 48 hours. And let me tell you, to this very day, I still have everyone who worked on it say, that was the best thing I ever worked on in the smallest amount of time that we had to put it together. And let me tell you, I never worked on anything with no problems. Like everything, bam, 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 hit it. I was the team leader. I wasn't the director, but I was the producer who put it all together. And everything with that went out. We started filming at like 7 a.m., got done by like 6 p.m., and then editing was done by like noon the next day. And you have until 7 p.m. usually on Sunday, which everyone's like scrambling around the last minute to get editing done. You know? Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah. I'll show it to you afterwards.
Let's do Bubba Hotep.
Yes, I
Bubba
completely. I
Hotep.
always forget
Bubba
about that.
Hotep.
Why do you think everyone loves Bubba Hotep besides Bruce Campbell being in it? Or do you think he is the reason why people love it so much?
No, it has a black guy playing JFK who's still alive.
Don
Like,
Coscarelli does fun stuff.
Don
Yeah.
Coscarelli is great in
It's-
everything he directs,
it's
except for that
amazing.
last Phantasm movie thing, but he didn't direct it.
Ignore that. But no, Bubba Hotep is just so fun and
Yeah.
weird, and like you watch one of those films and you're like, who the hell financed this, and why aren't they doing more of this
Yes.
stuff?
And it just came out from Scream Factory on Blu-ray. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just so absurd, and the premise of it is just sells itself, and then it is actually just that. Like, why not?
Even if you take the characters out of it, like if you take JFK and Elvis out of it, it's still about a nursing home beset by a mummy that sucks your soul out of your butthole.
Yeah,
Really, what more do you need?
it's like the slowest chase scene ever.
Yeah.
Like,
Oh, that the scene where they're walking down the hallway where
Yeah.
he's got the walker
Yeah.
and he's like rolling along. That's
Yeah.
like the trailer scene that really made it for me for that movie. I'm like, what is this Elvis and a black guy in a wheelchair?
It's brilliant. It's
Yeah.
brilliant because it wasn't the same old goddamn thing that everybody else has fucking well done for the last 200 years of this. And it was novel. It was interesting. You know, even if there was only one hook, it still would have been enough to make it an interesting movie. But there were like 8 hooks for that movie.
yeah,
And that was Ozzie Davis's last movie before he passed away,
I
right?
believe so.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that sounds right.
And I know a lot of people ask Don or Bruce a lot of times, and Bruce is way too busy probably to do anything right now because he's high on the Evil Dead being extremely successful TV series. Thank God, because that could have been a disaster. But let's hope maybe we'll get a Mummy in the Evil Dead series, because the Necronomicon could take you anywhere.
Yeah.
They want to make Bubba Hotep prequel or Bubba Ho.
I don't remember. I don't remember the details.
Bubba Ho Nosferatu.
Yes.
Yes.
Oh,
Which I think is still a prequel,
okay.
right? It's supposed to be like the
Yes.
origin of the mummy.
I
Is
don't
it the Mummy
remember.
origin or the Elvis origin or the JFK origin?
I don't know.
I'd see any of those for the record. Like any of those. There's not a bad
But the name
decision.
Bubba Nosferatu just sounds awesome.
I'm into it. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm like trying to think of like character actors who do things in creature roles, and I'm like trying to rack my brain. Has Doug Jones ever played a mummy?
I would be surprised if he hadn't played something like that. He certainly got
Yeah.
the undead down.
Doug Jones is like
Although-
the greatest in anything. He even, despite the fact the Bye Bye Man was so bad.
Oh, that film was awful, but
Jesus.
it's not his fault.
No, but Doug Jones is okay in it as the Bye Bye Man. The idea of the Bye Bye Man is not terrible. The movie around it was terrible.
Everything about it was
Yes.
awful. It was awful.
Although I'd like to see Andy Serkis
As a mummy?
as a mummy,
Yeah, that would be great.
or the guy from Mama.
Oh,
What's his name? The bendy dude, whatever his name is.
Unfortunately, with this or whatever, this is going to be our mummy. It's going to be this.
The new mummy?
This is going to be.
Well, this is our new big screen mummy. You know, a big
Yes.
deal mummy, like wide release mummy. I want to see smaller mummies.
Oh, Asylum has a new mummy movie coming out. You could probably buy.
Hooray!
I can see Cordila be like, "Oh, where on Amazon is it?"
Yeah, that's exactly what I'm doing right now.
Now, did anyone know that before Brendan Fraser's Mummy movie in 1999 was supposed to come out, they were going to be adapting Anne Rice's Mummy novel into a movie?
I did not know that.
I had heard that, yes.
How
Yeah.
far did they get into it?
But they didn't get very far after
Okay.
Universal announced they were making the Mummy, and she pulled out of it,
Fair
and she
enough.
pulled her rights out of it too, because it was like, nope, we're not going to do that because we're not going to compete against $150 million tentpole blockbuster summer that comes out 2 weeks before the Phantom Menace does, which was like the smartest thing the Mummy did, because it got 2 weeks of being number one at the box office before the disaster of the Phantom Menace graced our lives.
Oh, I have found Bubba Nosferatu, Curse of the She-Vampires. This prequel to Bubba Hotep finds Elvis shooting a film in Louisiana where he runs afoul of a coven of she-vampires.
I would love to see that.
There's nothing
because
more I want right now.
Yeah.
that Elvis was so, he's like the kind of rude in a movie you love, whatever, because it's like it's so much fun, and it's not being like annoying or like overtly just terribly sexist, but he's just the way he is. You love him, and just seeing him fight a bunch of like she vampires.
A slightly younger, slightly more virile Elvis encountering she vampires in Louisiana, which is kind of like a True Blood tie-in almost. Like, I'd be in for that.
Kickstarter, people, come on!
That would be a hell of a Kickstarter trying to get that one off the ground, though.
A couple million to make that, you think?
Yeah.
I mean,
well,
Veronica Mars, that got what, $30 million or something?
We'd have to pry Bruce Campbell out of all of the other projects that he's involved in, or we'd have to find a different, younger, pudgier Elvis.
Yeah, no, nobody else should play it because unless Bruce like handpicks it himself and it's just like guarantees us this is going to be like, you know, the successor to him. Because I also forgot to mention he has a reality TV show he's hosting coming up soon.
Yeah, that's coming up.
Yeah, Bruce Campbell in a haunted house with a bunch of like random horror fans.
It's an elimination show where you spend the night in a haunted house or like for like weeks with Bruce Campbell.
I'd do that for free.
I signed up for it to see if it would fly, but I didn't get a call back.
Yeah, I didn't get a call back either. You didn't know about it?
I didn't even. I'll try for the second.
Next time I see stuff like this, I will just send it to you directly.
Send it to me. It's like one of us should go.
I'm going to apply for everything.
Or I'll tag you on Facebook and be like, DeDe, look at this because you need to do this.
I'll apply.
There's been a couple things I found out you didn't do or didn't go to. I'm just like, fuck, you should do this.
I know.
Anyway, speaking of the 1999 Mummy movie, I love it because I think it's just popcorn fun, and I can't stop watching it. I know you don't like it.
You like action horror. I hate action horror. And I think it's a stupid goddamn movie from beginning to end. And I love Brendan Fraser, and I like stupid movies occasionally. But that is a blend of stupid action horror that I found completely unlikable.
What was the big thing you took away from it that just makes you dislike it? Or is it just because of the genre it is?
Okay, so quick moment. My mom's an archaeologist, so watching movies where people just run around destroying archaeological sites like a pack of assholes tends to annoy me. So
wow, I think I remember you telling me that.
Yeah. So
Do you just shout this belongs in a museum the whole time?
What are you doing? That's millions of years old. Yeah, no.
Is that Indiana Jones's line? It belongs in a museum.
Indiana Jones is also a shitty archaeologist, I'll have you know. But I read a great article, which was basically a letter from the board revoking his doctorate for being a crappy archaeologist. But
you call this archaeology?
It was stupid people making stupid decisions, and I can never watch those movies gracefully.
Okay. And you didn't see the others?
And I did not see the others because why would I? I hated that one. Not to mention which all the Rock movies are not mummy movies. They are Scorpion movies.
But I guarantee Cordelia secretly has, like, stashed behind the closet, behind everything, are all 5 copies of the Scorpion King signed by every actor.
That's your big secret.
I hide none of my pleasures.
Why do you love or hate the Brendan Fraser trilogy?
I saw the first one when it came out and haven't given him a second thought since. I think I'm with Cordelia. Like I like horror. I'm not a big action person all the time.
Which is basically what the new one is.
Which is what it is, exactly.
Yeah.
It's not horror. Just because it uses something that's undead doesn't make it genre.
So Van Helsing was not a big fan. You're not a big fan of that.
Seeing it, I was kind of like, again, like I saw it and forgot what it was like 20 minutes after I finished seeing it.
I saw it on video.
That was supposed to be like his escape from the Wolverine role, but it was nope, I guess I gotta keep doing Wolverine because you're so terrible at it. Everyone loves you in it.
There's a trailer for the new Mummy movie that got, I don't know if it was accidentally released or if someone put it together on purpose, where they took out all of the sound except for Tom Cruise screaming. So the entire trailer is all of that with the plane crash and whatnot, and all of it's just Tom Cruise screaming. Silence.
With, like, the goat screaming videos that I keep watching on YouTube, that would make me really happy. I would break my no trailer rule for that if someone made that.
It's fantastic. It's just fantastic. Okay. It's just Tom Cruise screaming. I would watch it if that was the movie. If they took out all of the Foley and all of the music and all of the CGI sound, like stuff that goes with the CGI stuff, and just had Tom Cruise screaming.
I thought that when I first saw the Mummy, Fraser, the first Fraser film, I'd only ever seen the Universal movies. I don't think I'd seen the Hammer movies yet. I was aware of the Hammer movies, but I think the only Hammer movie up to that point in 1999 when I was 19, I'd only ever seen Horror of Dracula. I was a horror fan, but I was a picky horror fan. Now I'm just like, I guess I'll just watch everything because I have to, because I've been doing the show for 10 years. Good or bad.
But you haven't seen Raw. How is that possible?
Raw is so good.
I have never seen The Shining.
Well, they have it for Father's Day at the Coolidge, at the Brattle, so you should go.
I'm really wondering what Dr. Sleep's going to be like, considering that they're not going to be able to make Dr. Sleep like the direct sequel to the Kubrick film. Anyway, I digress. That's a whole other conversation about Stephen King, who, by the way, has never done a mummy movie or a book, right?
Right.
Right?
Right.
Am I absolutely correct in this?
Yes.
Okay. Even a short story?
Maybe a short story, but who the hell can keep track of all of the short stories?
I'm like, unless the mummies are coming from Maine instead of Egypt.
I had to slap somebody with a copy of Salem's Lot, and he's like, Stephen King's never done a vampire movie. And I threw Salem's Lot across the room. I said, catch! And they ducked out of the way. And like, what the hell was that? That was your vampire comment that you just made, idiot.
Not to mention
like
hundreds of short stories about it and a crossover between the Gunslinger and the vampires from Salem's Lot, and, you know...
Yeah. Oh, and also if we're going with Mummy as Revenant, I mean, Pet Sematary is all about beating death. So maybe that's how he's tackling it without necessarily getting into. Yeah, you're not getting into Egyptian mythology, but you're coming the dead resurrected is there.
The most terrifying embalming scene ever happened this weekend in the movie Baywatch. They are
Wait,
inside.
There's embalming in Baywatch?
Yes. They're inside. They're in the morgue, inside the morgue doors, hiding from the bad guys.
Why is there a morgue in Baywatch?
Because they're lifeguards who pretend to be cops.
Someone drowned.
So that's like there shouldn't be death. Okay.
This is the joke that even a cop makes. It's like, you're lifeguards, not cops.
I'm suddenly entranced by this
So the Rock
embalming scene in Baywatch.
Okay, so The Rock, Zac Efron, and the chick Zac Efron stares at a lot in
bar.
the movie are inside the morgue doors hiding from the bad guys, and Zac Efron is underneath somebody, and there's like stuff dripping on his face or whatever. The Rock's trying to tell him that embalming fluid like liquefies the fat in someone's body, and it's probably leaking out through a stitch, and it's like pouring on his face.
This is like the beginning of Return of the Living Dead.
This is like in the very like middle of the movie.
I need a Baywatch Reanimator crossover.
Yes.
Undead lifeguard.
I think Chris, you somehow talked Cordelia and I into going to see Baywatch later.
I never knew that I needed to see the embalming scene in Baywatch.
Stupid. It's kind of funny.
Okay, I just had to like throw in reverse there for a second when you're talking about embalming in Baywatch.
So anyway, back to the thing about the mummy.
Yeah, okay.
I'm showing them to my son right now, and he really enjoys them because as a 10-year-old, you're watching this for the first time ever.
Right.
You are just like, what is this? Why? He's like asking 30 million questions, and he's just like, why is the mummy can do this? Why does he have these magical powers? Why does he keep shooting up? He keeps getting back up again. What are these little pygmy monsters? Why are there yetis? Because there are yetis in the third one, by the way.
Oh my god.
And again, the 10-year-old boy is the target demographic, unlike
That is
the second one.
the 35-year-old woman. That
Yeah,
I am.
and he really got into the second one because the new main character is Alex, Fraser and Rachel Weisz's son in the movie. He's 10 years old. They also did a Mummy animated series, which for whatever reason, the Mummy was purple. It ran for 2 seasons on the WB.
Did it look nice against the sand?
I don't know. Maybe just because, putting an undead creature in a kid's animated movie.
Cordelia's covering her face right now.
It was called Mummy Secret of the Jinn, and there was no actual jinns in the movie in the second season of the show. But it's
so that's how secret the Jinn was.
And then, of course, I don't know if you ever saw this. There was a TV series that was called Mummies Alive, where there were mummy superheroes.
Oh, I was aware that existed, although I've never seen it.
And they were like led by King Tut or whatever
Did they each have
as a
different
mummy. Because King
superpowers?
Tut, by the way, is a full-grown man too.
Not a 14-year-old boy with Marfan syndrome.
Yeah.
Neat. Did they have superpowers?
Yes.
Of course.
Did they each have a different superpower?
Yes.
Mummy superpowers. So it was like gargoyles, except with mummies.
There was a Nefertiti mummy.
I'm like going back to like actual mummies. Like, was their superpower like walking really slow? Like,
I can imagine the story break room for this show where everyone just sat down and was like, all right, can you think of a mummy? What was its name?
That's like, have you ever seen the Key and Peele sketch about them making Gremlins 2?
Yes.
Exactly.
A little boy named Presley found a secret out this year that he was once a pharaoh when Egyptians ruled the world, and now the sorcerer named Scare tries to get him day and night. But Presley has 4 guardians to protect his very life. He has a mummy. From the 25 BC.
Say that one more time, Cordelia.
I feel like they played that song last night at the club. The exposition mummy rap. It was fantastic.
You could dance to that. That
I
was
want to go to that club.
I mean, let's face it, as kooky as a premise of that show being the mummies being superheroes helping out in modern day America, with their, you know, their little boy companion, like most shows like that would have or whatever, the animation is pretty top notch.
They're awfully white.
Yeah, I'm like, cookie's not the word I would choose. But
Well, they're dead.
That makes okay.
Well, they're kind of gray too.
I'm like, the dead, like, rotted flesh is not pale.
They also point out that mummies, women mummies, should not have boobs whatsoever, considering that breasts, when you decompose, are made of fatty tissue, usually, and are going to be the first thing that a embalming fluid, even back then, or not embalming fluid because they didn't have it, but you wouldn't have breast as a mummy. So
I feel like if you
the
bring
hot
in
chick in this movie...
I feel like if you bring up the phrase boob jerky, no one's going to see your film.
Oh...
Man, I would.
You know,
Yeah, I probably would too.
But, you know, let's face it, they need to make this mummy movie with this hot woman, you know, in like torn I mean, from everything in the trailer, DeDe, that you haven't seen, she's running around like almost naked in torn rags with her 10 out of 10 beach body, you know, when she gets it, just like Arnold Vosloo. Obviously, he goes from being all like decaying and ragged to his 10 out of 10 muscular looking abs and such. I mean, he didn't look like Conan the Barbarian, but, you know, he was obviously supposed to be slightly more in shape than Brendan Fraser's character, who was supposed to be the you know, the dumpy American hero.
So the crossover between Baywatch and The Mummy continue.
Yeah.
I could imagine that being an episode of Baywatch Nights from the 1990s.
I'm writing a Cosmo article as we speak about embalming Natron, your way to your finest beach body. Step 1, hook up the nose.
We don't do mummification anymore, do we?
Not generally, no.
No.
It happens naturally still. Like there's
They're like body farms.
well, like all the bodies on Everest,
Yeah.
you know, have naturally mummified.
But the actual act of mummification it was supposed to be like an honor, right?
Yeah, it was a whole honor ritual.
It wasn't like a torture thing like we depict in the
No.
movies. Even in the original Karloff version, he is being tortured to death because
hard
he's...
to torture someone who's dead. They didn't generally do it to people that weren't dead.
Okay, so that's where the clarification about mummies needs to come from, that in movies, it's always torture to good or bad people. Obviously, the character of Imhotep in the original, in the 99 Fraser film, Imhotep is doing something he's not supposed to be doing. He's boinking a woman who's not his. He's basically, it's passionate love, it's adultery. But the punishment of the worst kind for adultery, instead of getting the scarlet A, you get mummified.
That's no good.
Makes zero sense
Yeah.
from, you know, any perspective. But that's fine. That's
Wait,
fine.
the
We're
way
not...
I explained it?
No.
Oh, okay, I
like
thought I was
that
gonna
get.
say.
No.
Yeah, no.
Yeah, we're not, again, much like the Alien movies, we're not sticking to hard science with our mummy films. Or anthropology. Hard anthropology, for that matter.
But if mummification is supposed to be like a sacred thing and an honor
Yes.
to have it done
Yeah.
to you, even in like cultures today that still practice ancient rituals and stuff, why don't you think it's done?
Because there's laws now.
Oh.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm just trying to think of the cultures.
But if
that-
you're dead, what's the law, and like this
Well,
is
it's
what
like
you
a
want to
public
have done to you?
health
What if I
issue.
put in my will I wanted to be mummified?
Well, so they can't mummify you and embalm you, and a lot of the times that you have to actually be embalmed to be processed as a you know, human remains.
Oh.
Yeah, it depends. You could do a Viking death. I think those
I
are legal
actually-
in certain places.
I actually have that written in my will that I want to be my body put on a pyre out in Lake Webster, because it's got that really long name. I used to live in Webster, and I want a flaming arrow shot in my body on the lake.
There you go. You could
Yeah.
do that. I mean, there's so many books and interesting articles there now. Like you can have your body turned into a bunch of soil that a tree will grow out of. You can have the carbon turned into a diamond for someone to wear for the rest of their lives. Like,
because I've seen Vikings enough and saw like the Viking funerals on that show, and I'm like, yeah, I want to have that done. And Darth Vader had it happen to him at the end of Return of the Jedi, and I want the theme song to the death of Optimus Prime played at my funeral too, because it's got such a down-ridden beat.
How long is your will?
Very simple, very simple.
Okay.
That all sounds performative.
My son gets my entire comic book collection. My horror fans get to pick and choose my horror collection.
Oh, okay.
So you can each get something in my will of like horror stuff. Like, oh, I don't own that. Chris and I can have it because he's dead. So
there you go.
Yeah. What did anyone, by the way, read Anne Rice's Mummy?
Yes.
No.
You didn't? Okay. You did? Okay. Do you have a quick little
Anne
thoughts
Rice's
on
Mummy?
it? Yeah.
Anne Rice's Mummy was the same, sexy undead thing that,
Lestat was.
that she does. I mean, it was the sexy undead.
Is there body rot in that though?
No.
Okay. Mummies I know are preserved themselves, but not usually in a very sexy way.
They find a mummy. It's a hot dude.
Okay.
The
rest writes itself.
Yeah. I mean, it's an Anne Rice hot dude who does hot dude things and, is tortured. Oh, I'm so emo because I'm I'm a hot dude who's probably immortal and, reasons. And I mean, it's been a long time since I read it. It was never my big.
Well, it's being re-released because she's writing a sequel.
I still have the copy that I bought in 1992 or whatever. So I mean.
Well,
yeah, it's one of her original books too.
Okay, well there goes the Tom Cruise tie-in too, from Interview with the Vampire to the Mummy adaptation. That's
that's right. I completely forgot he was in Interview with the Vampire.
We're all blocking it out. Yeah.
Well, because we're hoping that the upcoming CW TV series will do some justice. Despite the fact it should not be on the CW, it should be on like Showtime or HBO.
Are you doing a CW Interview with the Vampire TV show?
The Vampire Chronicles.
Oh,
now the Vampire Diaries is over because they don't want to do, because we're stupid people, don't you know? We can't differentiate between what the Vampire Chronicles are and the Vampire Diaries are. Just like we can't have the Joker in The Dark Knight and have him in like children's animation because children are stupid. They can't figure out that those are two completely different things.
I actually don't disagree with that. I think audiences are real dumb.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, you've got to consider the lowest common denominator.
Yeah. But the shocking thing was, and I swear to God, I hope Chris was joking about that, Christopher Rice, who's Anne Rice's son, is going to be the showrunner of this.
Not you, Chris.
No. He is best known usually for writing gay angel romance novels. Okay. That's kind of been his niche for a long time. That's when Anne Rice started becoming very like into God and Jesus, and we were all like, "What the fuck happened to the Queen of the Damned?"
She came back though.
She came back, thank God. But yes, thank
the bird aliens from Planet Zeta.
Thank Memnoch the Devil.
Atlantis.
He had made a comment about who should play Lestat, and he's like, "I always saw Lestat as being the most modern day rock star I can think of," and he said Justin Bieber, and the fandom lit the fuck up. Like, you are going to ruin your mother's fucking creation. Stop it. Get fired. Get away from this whole thing. You obviously don't know what you're talking about. And then a whole bunch of like anti-gay jokes being thrown at him because of the Justin Bieber being like this pretty boy blonde. You know what I mean? And it's just like, oh my God.
Yeah, but he's not quite so.
He's not poppy.
I was gonna say not so poppy and not so puffy Teddy Ruxpin looking.
Yeah, I do like the vampire. Rockstar tie-in, like The Strain. I never saw the series, but the book, like, you read this and you're like, this is Marilyn Manson. No, I've never seen the series.
You gotta watch it.
I love the books, though, but you're reading those and it's just like, this is like Manson.
Do you like Del Toro, like his directing and stuff?
Yeah.
Watch at least the first episode and see what you think, because that is the first episode's like 2 hours, so it's episode 1 and 2 is directed by Del Toro, and you definitely get like, wow, this is definitely Del Toro, and the rest of the show is like trying to copy his style in a way, but you definitely get that feel, you know what I mean? You get the feel in your, down deep or whatever, that this is Del Toro or whatever. Second season, third season kind of redeemed itself or whatever, but it's kind of like one of those shows that does one of those by the second season, picks itself back up to the third season in a way that's really like.
Did you read the books?
Yes.
Okay. Does it follow the books exactly, or does it kind of go off on its own?
I think it's a very strong following in a lot of regards. They do introduce a couple characters that are not in the books and wish they just died immediately. One of which put them into the most controversial thing of the show. Like, okay, so these vampires are dickless. They don't have anatomy. The females don't have anatomy either. Why
They
is
have other penetrative.
Yes, exactly. But why is this vampire setting this girl up? The character they introduced into the show, which is not in the book, there's this Australian or British woman in a very rape-like situation. You know what I mean? Like, it's like, what is this? What are you doing? It's that German vampire that is like the go-between between the master and the old man who's trying to rejuvenate himself. That guy tries to rape this woman, and you're just like, what the fuck?
Because they can think of literally no other way in which this character could menace this other character.
He even says, I'm going to do it with my thing. Because she's like, you don't have any dick. What are you going to do? Whatever. He goes, oh, I'll find pleasures in other ways. And
I'm like, that's because really sloppy writers think that's the only way to give women character arcs.
Yeah. And she's written as kind of like a, oh, well, I have a girlfriend. I'll sleep with you, and I'll sleep with you. And now I'm sleeping with this other character on the show. And it's just like, good God. Who are we not going to have this woman sleep with on the show? It's like, I understand male characters do get new girlfriends every season. It's the same way, and I don't like that either, but like Arrow.
We've wandered.
Yes, we wandered. But thank you both for joining for this discussion about the Mummy franchises. It's
Mummies in film.
Mummy in film, or whatever. That's what it definitely should be called. The new Mummy movie comes out. I hope it's a freaking disaster.
I like good movies. I always hope for good movies.
Yeah, and I don't ever hope a movie bombs except for if it's a franchise or something that's near and dear to my heart, and they're obviously fucking it up. But fine. I don't care.
Like a lot of people have said the same thing about The Dark Tower.
Yeah.
They're hoping that.
I hope Creepers 3 bombs. Like, that's a film
Yes.
I'm rooting against. Like, that's really the only time I'm ever going to root against a film, and it's not because of the franchise.
Yes.
No, it's because the director's a pedophile.
Yes.
Exactly.
Yes.
So.
I want him to make no money.
Yeah,
I don't
like
want I don't want that to be made, and I applaud Adrienne Barbeau for stepping out of that movie.
Exactly.
And I did say something to her at Terracon. I was just like, "Do you know who made this movie?" She's like, "I've heard it.
Yeah,
I
she
know
knows.
what he did." I'm like, "Then why are you making this movie?"
Well,
And she didn't have a great answer. 2 weeks later, she's announced she's no longer part of
She
the
was
movie.
probably already had it in motion to try and get out at that point.
I
Didn't say
imagine.
anything.
I imagine she'd been asked by a number of people. Really, what are you doing?
Yeah.
I know it's a paycheck. I know it keeps you relevant. There's other stuff. You're Adrienne Barbeau, for God's sake.
Yeah, get a
but
better agent to get your name out there if you really need other work.
Yeah,
Because
but-
your name carries some weight in the horror community.
Yeah, aside from that, like things like that, I never root against a film, especially a genre film. I want there to be good genre out there, and I want it to make a ton of money, and I want Hollywood to invest wholeheartedly in this new Universal thing because I want to keep seeing it.
I do in certain regards. I think Angelina Jolie has been attached to play the Bride of Frankenstein for a long time. I don't know if that's still true or not. I mean, her name carries a lot of ridiculous controversy, and that's why she's almost in nothing these days.
Well,
So
she directed her own film last year, and that bombed.
that's what I'm also that too. So,
Yeah.
but I mean, her tabloid lifestyle is just like you just don't see her in anything anymore because people are just like, ugh, it's gonna carry all this crap that we don't want to hear about or whatever. So.
I heard recently that, or someone I think wishfully was hoping Mary Louise Parker would be the bride, and I would have loved that.
I would see that.
Oh,
Yeah.
from
Weeds.
Weeds?
Yeah.
Oh, I was thinking of the girl from Death Proof and The Thing and Scott Pilgrim.
Oh no, that's
Mary Elizabeth.
Winstead. Okay,
Winstead,
yeah. I
yeah.
had my names mixed up. But you're talking about the lead actress from
Yeah, I love
Weeds.
her.
yeah, lead
Oh,
actress
okay.
from
All right.
Weeds.
Cool. Well, maybe that will happen.
She
Again,
looks
think.
like Elsa Lancaster, so
Yes.
Yeah.
Wow. I didn't even
Think
think
about
about that. Yeah.
yeah. I think it was wishful discussion rather than actual casting.
Yeah. As long as they don't just do a straight up remake of the original and actually have the bride in it more than 5 minutes.
Well, I mean, not to get too far afield, even though we've gone completely off
Yeah,
the rails
yeah.
at this point. The original's such a tragedy.
Yes.
Like it's the horror of it is the horror of life and the horror of existence. It's not a horror film. It's just confronting your own mortality and the fact that you have so little agency in this world. That's the horror of this film. People don't want to sit through that. It's depressing as hell.
True.
Maybe they'll take more of a what was that Sting and Flashdance
Ooh.
chick
I
one.
could totally go with that.
Jennifer Grey?
Yeah.
No,
No,
Flashdance.
What
What was her name? Bucket chick. Yeah.
I thought that was Jennifer Grey.
No, that was
you're
Dirty
thinking
Dancing.
Oh, which was just on TV this week. Speaking of another horror movie.
Oh, yeah, I know exactly. I heard
Yeah. I saw that a couple of times.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, she was on the L Word, right?
Yes.
Yes.
Jennifer Beals.
There we
Jennifer
go.
Beals, thank you.
Jennifer
Okay,
Beals.
all right. On that note, now that we've gone really far off,
You're going to be taking a while to edit this.
I'll just chop out this whole end or whatever. Where can people find you, DeDe?
People can find me on Twitter at DeDeCrim. That's DeDeCrim. You can also find me. I'm a staff writer for FilmThrills.com. I also write for Room Org Magazine and Room Org Online, and I do wide release reviews for Cinematic Essential.
Awesome. Thank you for coming back with us to talk about mummy movies
And everything else.
and everything else.
Yes, thank you for having me.
No problem. Thank you, Cordelia, for joining me for Mummy Movies.
Of course.
And everyone wish your mummy post Happy Mother's Day.
Oh, this would have been a good
Terrible
Mummy's Day.
joke.
Yeah.
Good night, everybody.